My future mother-in-law has always hated me because I stole her son. Now she's demanding that I wear purple to my wedding while she wears white, but I think she's lost her goddamn mind. Posted by you/upass_professional 384. The tension in my chest grows heavier with each passing day as I find myself caught in an emotional war that I never wanted to fight. I, 27F, have been with my fiancé John, 28M, since our starry-eyed high school days, but our love story has been constantly overshadowed by his mother, Debbie, 53F, a woman who seems to have made it her life's mission to destroy our happiness. Now, in her latest power play, she's demanding that I wear purple to my own wedding while she parades around in white, a move so audacious it makes me question her sanity. Our history is a complicated tapestry of love, separation, and reunion. Back in high school, when John and I first fell in love, Debbie orchestrated our breakup by convincing him we were too young to understand real love. Like a master puppeteer, she pulled the strings until we went our separate ways and headed off to different colleges. Fate had other plans. During my sophomore year, social media brought us back together. John's message appeared on my screen like a beacon of hope, a heartfelt apology, an admission of missing me, and an acknowledgement that he had been wrong. We rekindled our relationship, but Debbie's reaction was nothing short of theatrical. She literally collapsed into tears upon seeing us together, dramatically accusing me of using witchcraft to ensnare her precious son. I've always been raised with traditional values, taught by my mother to respect my elders and maintain peace. But Debbie has weaponized my politeness against me, taking full advantage of my reluctance to challenge her authority. Since John and I reunited, she's launched a relentless campaign to separate us, parading an endless stream of suitable women before him, devout church ladies, colleagues' daughters, friends' offspring, anyone she deems more worthy than me. John has rejected them all, but Debbie persists, whispering poisonous accusations about how I'm controlling him. John has attempted to stop her, but his words carry all the force of a feather against a hurricane. 3 months ago, John proposed, and our joy was immediately met with Debbie's escalating hostility. She boycotted our engagement party. Fine, I could handle that. She skipped the family dinner where both sides were meant to meet, whatever, her loss. John's father, who escaped Debbie's clutches when John graduated high school, attended and apologized profusely for his ex-wife's behavior. I assured him it wasn't his burden to bear. The real drama erupted when John finally confronted his mother about her behavior toward our engagement. This confrontation seemed to crack open his eyes to years of interference he'd previously brushed aside like insignificant dust. Debbie, ever the master manipulator, spun a tragic tale about her own rushed courthouse wedding, her premarital pregnancy, and how our happiness was triggering her deep-seated trauma. Then came her outrageous demand. She wanted to wear white to our wedding while relegating me to soft pink or lavender, as if I were some supporting actress in her starring role. But the true shock came when John, my beloved defender, suggested this might be a fair compromise. He even proposed that his mother walk me down the aisle, allowing her to showcase her white dress in a moment that should have been mine alone. The argument that followed shook the foundations of our relationship. I confronted him about his double standards, how he'd fight to defend his mother's honor but leave mine vulnerable to her attacks. He called me petty and selfish, words that felt like daggers from the man I thought would always protect me. The tension escalated until we both teetered on the edge of calling off the wedding entirely. Now, as I sit here contemplating our future, I can almost picture Debbie in her home, wearing a satisfied smirk as she watches her carefully planted seeds of discord bloom into full-grown chaos. John remains caught in her web, a puppet dancing to her maternal manipulation. I'm seriously questioning whether I should proceed with this wedding, wondering if I'm overreacting or if this is truly about more than just a dress color. Am I being unreasonable here? Is this really just about a dress color, or is it a symptom of a deeper problem that will haunt our marriage forever? Update. 24 hours later, the awakening. The universe works in mysterious ways. Just when I thought all hope was lost, everything changed. John came home today, his shoulders heavy with the weight of revelation, his eyes clouded with newfound understanding. The catalyst for this transformation? A conversation with his coworker about our compromised situation, a discussion that would unknowingly become the turning point in our story. I mentioned it to Steve at work. He confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought he'd understand my position about compromising with Mom. Instead, his friend, bless that man's soul, delivered the wake-up call John so desperately needed, going off about how cringy and inappropriate the whole situation was. The irony of this moment wasn't lost on me. When I voice concerns, they're dismissed as emotional overreactions, but when another man points out the same issues, suddenly they're worth considering. This bitter realization became the key that unlocked a deeper, more honest conversation about our relationship's dynamics. I laid out my concerns like exhibits in a courtroom, each one more damning than the last. Exhibit A, his susceptibility to manipulation, proven by how quickly he changed his tune when another man echoed my sentiments. The fact that he would listen to a male co-worker's opinion over his future wife's perspective cut deep. Exhibit B, his mother's calculated attempt to sabotage our wedding with her absurd demands. Now that someone else had pointed out how cringy it was, he finally seemed to grasp the magnitude of her manipulation. Exhibit C, his willingness to agree to his mother's outrageous requests without consulting me. Though he weakly defended himself, claiming he only wanted to test the waters, we both knew that was a paper-thin excuse. Looking him straight in the eyes, my voice trembling with suppressed emotion, I asked, "Did it never occur to you how deeply disturbing it is for your mother to want to walk down the aisle at her son's wedding?" I watched as confusion in his eyes slowly gave way to understanding. "She's not just asking to wear white," I continued, "she's trying to replace me as the bride." The pieces finally started falling into place for John like a macabre puzzle. His mother's crocodile tears about never having her real wedding, her victim narrative about being left alone after his father's departure, her dramatic declarations about wanting to experience a proper wedding before she dies, despite being in perfect health, it all painted a picture of manipulation so clear it was almost artistic. I presented him with an ultimatum wrapped in love but fortified with steel, for non-negotiable conditions to maintain our engagement. 1. Limited contact with his mother and zero input from her regarding our wedding, which would be postponed a year to test his commitment. 2. Both individual and couples therapy to strengthen our bond and his resolve. 3. A confrontation with his mother, together this time, as I refused to let him face her manipulation alone again. 4. The establishment and maintenance of firm boundaries. To drive home the reality of our situation, I showed him this post and the responses it had generated. Watching him read through comments calling him a spineless mama's boy was difficult. Each word seemed to land like a physical blow. He made it through several minutes of brutal honesty from strangers before someone's particularly crude comment about his character made him hand back my phone. "The comments are harsh," he admitted, his voice rough with emotion, "but they show me how insane this situation looks from the outside. I've been trying so hard to keep the peace that I lost sight of who I should be protecting." His confession that reading so many people advising me to leave physically pained him because he knew he deserved it was a moment of raw honesty I hadn't expected. We reached out to his father, Dan, who expressed profound relief at John's awakening. Together, we formulated a plan to confront Debbie tomorrow, with both our fathers present for support. John promised that if his mother resorts to her usual tactics of tears and guilt trips, he would cut contact completely. The weight of that decision hangs heavy in the air like storm clouds before a downpour. I never wanted to be the reason a son stopped speaking to his mother, but I refused to spend my life competing with her for my husband's loyalty. John says he chooses me, but tomorrow will put that choice to the test. As I write this update, my emotions are a complex tapestry of hope and apprehension. This should feel like a victory, but instead, there's an undercurrent of sadness. Tomorrow, we face Debbie, and I can only pray that John's newfound spine remains as steel rather than reverting to putty in his mother's skilled hands. Final confrontation update to follow. Final update. The confrontation and its aftermath. Before I begin this final chapter of our saga, I want to address something. To those who've reached out with disrespect and vitriol, questioning my story or my right to wear white at my own wedding, your negativity speaks more about your own trauma than my situation. I genuinely hope you find healing. To everyone else who's offered support and wisdom, your kindness has been a lighthouse in this storm. The drive to Debbie's house felt like a journey to the executioner's block. My heart thundered in my chest with each mile marker we passed, its frantic rhythm matching the steady drumbeat of rain against the windshield. John sat beside me, his knuckles white against the steering wheel, our shared silence heavy with anticipation. We'd strategically arranged for Dan and my father to arrive shortly after us, hoping to avoid overwhelming Debbie immediately. As we approached her front door, the manicured suburban facade of her home seemed to mock the chaos that lay within. My anxiety peaked as we waited, feeling like I was ascending the world's tallest roller coaster in slow motion. John's greeting was firm but respectful. "Hey, Mom," two simple words that carried the weight of years of complicated history. We settled into her immaculate living room, the air thick with unspoken tensions. Then, like a dam breaking after years of pressure, John launched straight into the heart of the matter. Instead of beginning with the wedding dress drama as I'd expected, he went straight for the jugular. "Mom, why do you really have a problem with Sarah?" The directness of his question seemed to physically rock Debbie back in her chair. What followed was a masterclass in manipulation that would have made Shakespeare's villains take notes. Debbie's performance deserved an Oscar, wide-eyed innocence, shocked disbelief, and proclamations of motherly love for me. "I love her like a daughter," she declared, her eyes seeking mine with a desperation that made my skin crawl. But John wasn't finished. He began methodically listing every slight, every insult, every attempt to sabotage our relationship. including her constant suggestions that he could do better when I wasn't around. This was news to me, but hardly surprising. The mask slipped. Debbie's face contorted with rage as she realized her son was actually calling her out. "I know she made you do this." She spat, her finger jabbing the air in my direction like a weapon. "She's turning you against your own mother." The arrival of Dan and my father transformed Debbie like a chameleon changing colors. Suddenly, she was the victim, claiming John had stormed in and begun verbally attacking her without provocation. The lies flowed as smoothly as honey, but they had a bitter aftertaste that filled the room. The confrontation escalated like a carefully orchestrated symphony reaching its crescendo. Debbie unleashed a torrent of accusations about me, how I'd been an issue since high school, how I'd supposedly caused John's grades to drop, a complete fabrication, how I'd made him abandon his family, despite his thrice-weekly visits to her house. She even claimed we'd committed some grave sin by not consulting her about our engagement party, a party she hadn't even helped plan or pay for, as my father pointedly reminded her. When Dan questioned her about the white wedding dress demand and her desperate need for attention, Debbie's composure shattered completely. Her face flushed crimson as she turned on her ex-husband, blaming him for never giving her a real wedding. Then came the revelation that cut through the drama like a knife. Her own mother had told her pregnant brides are tacky. In that moment, I glimpsed the wounded girl behind the manipulative woman, and my heart ached despite everything. The situation reached its breaking point when Debbie began hyperventilating, clutching at John's arm and gasping that she couldn't breathe. It was the moment of truth. Would John's resolve crumble in the face of his mother's distress? My heart stopped as I watched him, thinking, oh no, he's about to flip-flop. To my relief and pride, John maintained his composure. He got her water, ensured his father would stay with her, but stood firm in his decision. As we left, her screams of "I can't breathe" followed us like banshees, but John didn't turn back. He later admitted he knew she was faking it, but his instincts still wanted to run to her aid, a testament to years of emotional manipulation. In the car, John broke down. The tears weren't for the confrontation itself, but for the realization that his mother had been gaslighting him his entire life. He remembered countless times she'd accused his father of unprovoked aggression, and now he was experiencing the same tactical victimhood firsthand. The parallel struck him silent, and I could see the painful memories playing behind his eyes. The aftermath has been both healing and painful. John has decided to go no contact for now, a decision that weighs heavily on his heart but feels necessary for our future. We've scheduled couples therapy for next month, and he's already set up individual counseling for himself through his insurance provider for the 23rd. The ball is rolling, and for the first time, I feel like we're truly on the same page. Dan called later to report that Debbie had calmed down but remained unreceptive to reason. He tried his best to make her understand how she was harming her relationship with John, but she refused to hear it. She's still convinced I'm the villain in this story, but for the first time, I'm at peace with her opinion of me. As I write this final update, my emotions are a complex mixture of relief and sadness. While I'm proud of John for finally standing up to his mother's manipulation, there's a profound sadness in knowing that somewhere inside Debbie is a little girl who was shamed by her own mother and never healed from that wound. Perhaps that's why she's so desperate to make our wedding about her. It's her attempt to rewrite her own painful history. I hope that one day, Debbie will get the help she needs to process her trauma and build healthy relationships. Until then, John and I will focus on building our future together, stronger for having weathered this storm. Sometimes, love means setting boundaries, even when it breaks your heart to do so. To everyone who supported us through this journey, thank you. Your words helped John see the truth and gave me the strength to stand firm. Now, we're looking forward to our wedding, whenever it happens, knowing that the color of the dresses won't matter nearly as much as the strength of our commitment to each other. End of updates.